So this video is gonna be a follow-up to a video that I did not too long ago, about a week ago, where I talk about my eating disorder, and that talked about how I got into it. Just a little bit of a recap. This eating disorder started off as a coping mechanism, a very dark and not worthwhile coping mechanism. But it was a coping mechanism because I was experiencing antipsychotic withdrawals. I was put on two antipsychotics because I was experiencing very intense psychotic symptoms. And eventually, while I was being taken off one of them, with that drug being Geodon. Was I on two at the time? I think I was on one at the time. But regardless, I was taken off of Geodon, and that sent my life into a horrible spiral of pain and suffering and nausea and hate and pain, and not a very good mindset to be in. And so to cope, I tried and reached out to things that I could control, because it felt like my life had completely gone out of control. And in hindsight of things, my life wasn't going out of control. My physical well-being was. My ability to be able to comprehend basic sentences. At the time I was recovering from a spine surgery, so it was a very intense time. And I remember the very first day it started, I was coming off of Geodon, and I was sitting at a toilet. Well, no, I wasn't sitting on a toilet. I was kneeling in front of the toilet. And I remember I ate some Cheerios beforehand with some mineral water to try and calm down my stomach, but it didn't work. And no matter how much I tried, I couldn't throw up. I felt the incredible nausea and need to throw up, but I just couldn't. So I thought to myself, hey, maybe I'll purge myself. Maybe just this once, because I feel horrible and I need to get this crap out of my stomach. So I did it once. And then again, and again, and again, and again, and then it turned into a mess. So how did I get out of it? Well, that's the thing. I don't think I've ever fully gotten out of it, ever. I still get those intrusive thoughts and eating disorder thoughts, and I find it hard to not binge, for one, and I find it hard to not force myself to throw up because I feel full. For a very long time, I remember not a very long time, probably a couple years at most, I felt a very big disconnect between my mind and my body. Not only was I suffering with psychotic symptoms, which come with depression and anxiety, but I was also suffering from obsessive compulsive thoughts, because I have OCD. And sort of, I've become very attached to things that seem to be a constant in my life. I've experienced what it was like to be in a mental hospital once before, but to fully comprehend how I started my road to recovery, you need to understand my second stay. So my second stay was 9 days, and it was a lot more intense than my first stay in a mental hospital. We really focused a lot on coping mechanisms, because that was one of the main reasons why I went into the hospital. One, I needed to be monitored while changing meds. Two, I was suffering with psychotic symptoms intensely. And three, I was using eating disorder as a bad coping skill. So my therapist was like, okay, we need to hospitalize you. And then my psychiatrist was like, sure, I guess it couldn't hurt. And then boom, in the hospital again. I remember on my first day, I was in the hospital, and every day we write goals, right? We write treatment goals. So we have a little worksheet, and on the worksheet, you write about stuff that you'll do for today. Like, my highest symptom is this, my low point was this, my high point was this, my yada 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 yada, and my goal for this day or week or whatever is this. For some people, it would be getting to know the other patients or participating in group therapy. But for me, it was eating without feeling guilty. And one of the therapists, she brought me to the side and she's like, sorry, there's a bike outside. One of the therapists, she took me aside during our free time and she was like, okay, we need to have a little bit more information on what you mean by eating without guilt. And I went into the whole spiel about how Geodon sent my life out of control and I was using an eating disorder to cope. So I explained it all to her, and she was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna put you on eating disorder watch, which essentially means everything you do in regards to eating will be monitored. You will be able to eat with the other patients, like you would normally do, but your portion size will be controlled, so you don't binge. And you're not allowed to be in your room or in a bathroom for more than a minute after you eat for at least an hour. At least an hour. That really made me a bit more anxious. I've done a lot of thinking when it came to that, and I was thinking, okay, eating disorder watch sounds very intense, so I don't really know how it's gonna mix with me and my withdrawal symptoms, because I was on withdrawal symptoms from venlafaxine, or also known as Effexor, which is a very hardcore antidepressant, and I was also coming off of risperidone, which is an antipsychotic, and antipsychotic withdrawals weren't as bad with risperidone. I was also coming off of not Lexapro, lorazepam. I was coming off of lorazepam, and that was the main one, because if you come off it too quickly, you can have a seizure, and I think that's it. Oh, I was also coming off of an anti-anxiety medication. I forget what it's called. Lorazepam is a benzodiazepine, so it's an anti-anxiety medication. Also an antidepressant. Also, it can get you high. I didn't use it for that. But anyway, funny thing is, I remember when I was coming off of lorazepam, my psychiatrist, she was like, we can start you on something else, because I had spilled the bottle into my food one day while I was taking a pill out, and I accidentally spilled the whole bottle in my food, so I was stuck without medication for like a couple days, and she was telling me, it's a bit dangerous, we can start you on something else, because my insurance wouldn't cover it. So she was like, okay, what do you think of Xanax? And I was sitting here, I was like, whoa, Xanax came out of nowhere. But yeah, I was coming off of those medications, and I wasn't sure how it would mix with my eating disorder watch thing, whatever. And every day, my food was monitored. For certain patients, I know another one of the patients, he had some deficiencies. Oh, sorry about it's gross, I know, but he had some health deficiencies, so he would have to take supplements like vitamin E. He was also on antipsychotics, and antipsychotics can cause you to have uncontrolled muscle movements. So some doctors use vitamin E as a supplement because you're lacking that in your body, and that can cause those unwarranted muscle movements. So he, just like him, certain patients were on specialized diets, and I necessarily wasn't on a specialized diet. I was just monitored about how much I ate, where I ate, how I ate, and all that. And yeah, with the help of the nurses, with a lot of help with group therapy, I'm not fully recovered. I mean, I still have my bad days. I still end up binging, and I still feel the need to purge. But honestly, I'm in a lot better place. I am in a very much better place. And I realize that a lot of the time with people who have psychosis, some of them do turn towards eating disorders and other bad coping mechanisms like drugs. I know a guy who went to hardcore drugs, and he was on meth, and he was hooked on meth for a while. And the only way he got off of it was he was forced to in a hospital. So when it comes to psychotic symptoms, it's not exactly a very, let's just say, clean-cut way of dealing with it. I know I suffered with alcoholism in the past, and I switched that out for eating disorder, and then I switched that out for self-harm, which I will talk about later. But yeah, that was my story. With the help of doctors and a lot of talking, I slowly learned to challenge those thoughts, and I slowly learned to cope with my feelings better, cope with my symptoms better. And I think that's one of the main important things when it comes to eating disorders and mental illness in general. Just being able to cope properly. So I hope you all enjoyed me talking about it. If you have any questions, DM me. My Social media's in the link in down below, and my dog's barking. I think I'll have to go feed her. Anyway, if you're in an emergency, I have emergency links down below, and I'll catch you in the next one. Hui ho, malamu puro.